So the role of the father. Now, in terms of the attachment specification, you need to be aware about the role of the father in attachment with offspring. So primary or secondary attachment. So the primary attachment in 65% of cases is with the biological mother, but it's not saying that the father cannot be a primary attachment figure. So in 3% of cases, research has shown that the father was the primary attachment figure, and in 27% of cases, the father was a joint primary attachment figure along with the mother. And in 75% of cases, a father will be the secondary attachment figure that the infant will form an attachment to, and that is by the age of 18 months. So usually around 1 year to 18 months they will have formed a secondary attachment to the father in 75% of cases. Now, there have been several factors that have been identified that can affect the relationship and attachment between fathers and children. So the degree of sensitivity. More secure attachments to their children are found in fathers who show more sensitivity to their children's needs. So if they are able to respond to the child's emotions, behaviours and needs with greater sensitivity, then they are shown to have a link and association to a more secure attachment. The type of attachment that they had with their own parents. Single parent fathers tended to form similar attachments with their children that they had with their own parents. So the idea that the type of attachment that you have as a child will influence the type of attachment that you have with your own offspring. So if they had a secure attachment with their parents, they would have a secure attachment with their infants. The intimacy that there is within the marriage or the relationship between the mother. So the intimacy they show towards their partner affects the type of attachment that they will have with his children. And being supportive co-parents. So the amount of support that the father gives to his partner in helping to care for the infant and the children will affect the type of attachment that he will have with them. So some key research findings then. So father's play is more important. So the quality of the father's play with infants is related to children attached into the attachments they have, and it suggests that father's play is a lot more important than mother's play, and they have distinct roles within attachment. So fathers should be the ones that are providing play and stimulation, whereas mothers are providing the role of nurturing. Also, it's been found that the level of response that is the most important, not the gender of the parent. So smiling and imitating and holding infants are behaviours that appear to be important in building attachment, and a father can provide those just as much as a mother can, and the key to the attachment relationship is that level of response, the quality of that response, not the gender of the parent. So if we were to look at some evaluation then, so we've got supporting evidence for the idea that father's play is really important. So it's found that father's play interactions were more exciting in comparison to mothers, and mothers' plays tended to be more affectionate and nurturing. So this supports the idea that father's role is one of a playmate and the mother's role is more of a nurturing figure. Research fails to provide a clear answer about how fathers and primary attachment. So it could be that it's related to traditional gender roles that we still hold within society. So women are expected to be more caring and nurturing of the infants and men aren't. So it might be that it is due to these factors, due to socialization, that men feel that they shouldn't act in a nurturing way, and they should be the playful ones, the ones providing the stimulation through play. Another explanation could be that it's down to actually hormones. So female hormones, estrogen, does create higher levels of nurturing, and therefore women are biologically predisposed to be the primary attachment figures. So we think from an evolutionary point of view, a mother would be the one that would carry the infant for 9 months inside the womb, and then she would have to be the one that would wean and breastfeed the infant in ancestral terms. So it makes sense biologically for them to form a primary attachment with the one that would provide them with the source of food. It's useful, so it can have important economic applications. So mothers might feel pressured to stay at home because research says that a mother's care is vital for emotional development and cognitive development and future development, whereas unfortunately it might not always be the case, that it might not be financially possible for a mother to stay at home. She might have to go out on an income, or it might be that the mother wishes to return back to work in order to fulfill her career. So therefore it might be beneficial to actually suggest that it isn't as damaging as it might be, so it doesn't make the mother feel bad for returning back to work. And is it testable? Well, there might be social biases that might prevent objective observations, so preconceptions about how fathers behave could influence the observations that are taking place. So the stereotypes that fathers are more playful, they might be a bit more boisterous in their play, they might be more creative, more construction based, and women are more nurturing, could cause unintentional observer bias, where they see the behaviour that they're expecting to see rather than the behaviour that they see in reality. So therefore we might have quite subjective data rather than objective observations taking place. Now, for example, you could get a question like this: outline and evaluate research into the role of father in attachment. Now, there hasn't been a past paper question yet on role of the father, so it might be worthwhile having a think about how it could be asked. So outline, I would discuss the idea that fathers generally are a secondary attachment, because in 65% of cases mothers tend to be the primary attachment figure, but in 75% of cases by the age of 18 months infants have formed a secondary attachment to the father. Talk about how in 3% of the cases that it was with the primary attachment was with the dad. I'd then talk about the factors that can influence a father's attachment, and talk about how father's play seems to be more important, so their role seems to be as a playmate, and actually the research suggests that it isn't the gender of the parent that's important, it's the importance of the degree of sensitivity to responding to the child's needs. Then I'd move on to 3 to 4 evaluation points of role of the father, and whether we have supporting evidence for the idea of a father being a playmate and their play being more playful and mother's play is more nurturing, and then issues surrounding the observation and how it might not be objective and it could be subjective due to stereotypes and biases, and then talk about other explanations. So it could be that actually it is cultural traditions that means that fathers feel that they have this role of playmate and not as nurturer that leads to this, rather than there being a distinct separation in the role of the father in comparison to the mother.